So let's talk about a bill that you're a co-sponsor of, House Resolution 4018, which deals with payday lending institutions. Tell me what your purpose of this bill is and what you think it achieves.
Well, let's back up for a second, because originally, when the Consumer Financial Protection Board, the CFPB Bureau, was created, it was created as a part of Dodd-Frank. I co-sponsored and voted for Dodd-Frank and for the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because it's important that we have a federal agency that is focused on protecting consumers. I've fought Republicans repeatedly with my vote and my voice to make sure that while they were trying to gut the CFPB, while they were trying to repeal it and eliminate it, that I consistently stood up and put my vote and my voice behind it. So on this specific bill, you know, the controversy is very overblown. I mean, you have a lot of hyperbole being thrown around about this bill. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that we balance access to capital, because unfortunately there are people who don't have the ability to make ends meet paycheck to paycheck.
So these are payday. I just want to make sure bring people up. These are payday loans that, in other words, you can get, you know, at a fairly high interest rate, upwards of 300% annualized, where you could get a loan to tide you over from one payday to the next.
If someone is facing eviction if they don't pay their rent, then yes, because these are families that don't have the ability to go to a big bank or a community bank and get $350. So unfortunately, what we need to do when it comes, payday lending is unfortunately a necessary component of how people get access to capital that are the working poor. What we need to do is make sure that people are paid a living minimum wage of $15 an hour so that they're not in that situation.
I'm with you on the pay raise and the rest, but I just want to stay on this for a second because I think it's important.
Sure.
This bill would essentially block the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau from putting in regulations that would protect consumers against predatory pay loan practices.
That's exactly what I'm saying. No, it would not do that.
Well, it would delay implementation of CFP by 2 years.
Let me explain what it does. First of all, it's a bill that I am a co-sponsor of. Patrick Murphy and Dennis Ross are the lead sponsors of that legislation. What it does is it says, because 15 years ago in Florida, when I was a state senator, we passed legislation unanimously, Democrats and Republicans, that really rolled back the horrific practices that the Orlando Sentinel, which won a Pulitzer Prize, exposed, that really were abusive to consumers. And they were much higher interest rates than we have today. People did get caught in a debt trap cycle. Now, because of the changes, we made sure people can only take one loan at a time. They can't use their car title as collateral. They can't pay off a loan with a new loan. We made sure that components like that of consumer protection strengthened the ability of people to get out of that cycle of debt. This bill simply says, you know what, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, take a look at laws like Florida's, and let's push the pause button. Let's let there be a little bit of catch-up so we can have other states that don't have as good of protections as we do. I mean, we could certainly have better, but let's let those states catch up to Florida, and then, you know, once that 2-year period is over, then go ahead and implement those rules. But the important thing about this is that at the end of the day, I trust the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The Republicans, and I certainly, the Republicans have tried to unravel the CFPB. I believe that at the end of the day, the CFPB will do the right thing, regardless of whether this bill passes.
But you're holding Florida up as being a good model.
Yes.
The Pew Charitable Trust said that a typical Florida payday loan customer ends up taking out 9 payday loans a year and is stuck in debt for nearly half of that year, according to Pew. The average interest rate on Florida's payday loans is 304%, only slightly better than the 390% annual average.
It's actually lower than that.
But the point being is, you said, one of the things you said earlier was payday loans are a necessary evil. Can I challenge that? Is there not a better system? Could we not come up with more micro-targeting through small banks, through post office loans, through post office banking? Does the payday industry really need to exist?
You know, until we come up with a better model, which I would be all for, and I have been a leader in fighting to make sure that we could protect consumers. There's a reason that we only have a very small percentage of consumer complaints against payday loans lenders in Florida, because the changes in the law worked. Now, can we go further? Of course we can go further, and we should. I've been a fierce consumer advocate and someone who fought for consumer protection for my entire career.
Does it give you pause, though, that the the NAACP, the Southern Poverty Law Center,
hold on a second,
all the Florida Legal Services, all are opposed to this bill and all decry what Florida's law is? The
Florida Legislative Black Caucus supports this legislation. 50 Florida pastors, the Broward Urban League, the Pinellas Urban League. The bottom line here is that we have to balance access to capital, because people need to be able to remain in their homes and pay their grocery bills and not get trapped in a cycle of debt. We dramatically improved that from the way it was. There's always room for more improvement. I trust that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, regardless of whether this bill becomes law, will ultimately do what's right, and I'll support whatever they decide.